Hello, I'm Jim Demmer with Clark County Close-Up. Thank you both for meeting with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
First, congratulations on getting the comp plan approval process completed. When did the county start this process?
Thank you, Jim, for having us. The county started the process. We had a kickoff July of 2013.
2013, okay.
Yes.
Now, why did it take so long?
Well, with the rebound in coming out of the county and the nation coming out of the recession, the councilors decided to take a second look at our population growth, and that was really the focus of that. And with the recession, there were a lot of uncertainties, and then with requiring that the county is obligated to update our plan, the councilors began to have a discussion on what do we do to comply with the statute.
Okay.
And I think to add to that, it's a very unique plan, because through this only 3 years, we started with Steve Stewart, then went to another one, then we went to Jeannie, Stewart, ended up with Jeannie. At the same time, we had a charter, we had freeholders, and we had myself and Julie. So if there's anything added to a plan, another thing, I'm not sure what it could have been, but it's been a lot of changes through this 3 years.
Sure.
And in addition to that, the councilors also wanted to take some consideration on urban and rural issues, and those issues, through our normal processes, it takes long. We have open houses, we have meetings with the planning commission, with the councilors, coordination with all our service providers and the cities. It is very complex, just like the councilor mentioned. We have new councilors that came on board, and the issues were very complex, and that's one of the reasons why it takes so long.
Okay. So for our viewers who might not have been following all the details about this, can you just give us a general overview? What is a comprehensive growth management plan, and why do we need it?
It is, to me, it is a vision of how the county sees itself. And in that context, how do the county wants to grow? And what are the issues that needs to be considered as we look at how we grow in the future? Whether it is how we plan for new growth, in this case, rooftops, and then the number of jobs that are associated with that. So that's why we need comprehensive plan. And then, we have to be able to determine why we plan for that growth, how do we pay for it in terms of infrastructure, streets, roads, other essential public facilities, including schools, parks, which I know we're going to. Those are the type of things that help the county define how we grow in the future. That's why we do comprehensive plan, and that's why, beside the fact that it is we are required or obligated by the state law, mandated to do a 20-year comprehensive growth plans. But those are the essential community values that lead the county to take a look at itself and say, how do we want to grow? And when we grow, what do we want to look like?
Okay. And then, so is it a state requirement that you had to do an update?
Yes, now it used to be once every 10 years. Now we're on an 8-year cycle.
Oh, 8-year cycle.
Yes.
Okay. And then what time period did that cover?
This plan that was adopted covered a 20-year horizon from 2015 to 2035.
Okay. Okay. For the average viewer or the average business owner, why is this process so important?
Well, I think this process, if you're just a homeowner, whether you have land, it's probably a little different. But if your kids have to go to school, you must like good parks, and you like to get to your job kind of on time if you can, you know. So this plan puts everything together, and really, as Oliver said, we try and balance our population with everything you do. So we say, you know, it's going to grow about, our population is going to grow about 1.5%. So we're going to have that many more people, and we're going to need this many schools. So if you have kids, you can say, all right, the county's planning for my kid to go to school so they won't be bused somewhere or things like that. And they're saying this street needs to be widened or whatever. And I should having at least a realistic way of knowing that I'll be able to go to a park. So it's kind of, they know that, you know, our county's thinking about their future, and it's easier to plan your future in Clark County.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor. You know, individual property owners, the reason we do this is that they'll be able to know what options are available to them in terms of their land. And along with that is, what are the development regulations that apply to what those options that are available to me? So I concur with Councilor.
Okay. Now, as part of the process, there were multiple alternatives that were considered by both the Planning Commission and the board. What alternative was finally selected?
Actually, it was kind of between, the alternative one was almost a no build. You don't do anything. So you had 2, 3, and then the rural plan was 4, you know. So it was really the combination between 2 and 3, because we went back and forth like the Planning Commission voted on every segment. So we did have, essentially, we went with all the city's requests, added some rural, you would say. So it's pretty well a mix of a plan. We didn't do very much with 4, but we did 2 and 3, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. It is a combination of the existing plan, which was adopted in 2007, and then some component of alternative 2 that included some minor changes in the existing urban growth area, and then option 3, which predominantly was what the cities was asking for. But there was something in there for the rural folks, not major, but it was the reduction in the minimum parcel size of agriculture, 20 acres minimum to 10, and then in the forest, 40 acres, reducing that to 20, and then in some areas where rural 20 abuts resource, reducing that to 10. So there was something in there for some rural property owners. So, but I agree with Councilor that it was a combination of 1, 2, and 3 with something there for the rural property owners. So
let's talk a little bit why that change, going from, as I understand, from 20 acres to 10. Why was that? It had to be fairly controversial.
Yeah, you know, since our first plan, 94, when everything was rezoned, the rural owners essentially have been wanting to say, we want our fair shake, you know, of trying to divide our land. At the same time, people don't realize that our core mandate is to really protect forests and ag. That's the state law. You can't break state law. So that's, you know, as planning, you know, council and Oliver said, regardless what you want, you know, you still have that foundation. So we tried to go kind of the middle of the ground and saying, all right, we'll go to an ag 10 and you can cluster it if you want, or from a forest down to a forest 40 down to a forest 20. But at the same time, hopefully we're telling the state we're still protecting ag and forest land. At the same time, we're giving them a little flexibility. So,
okay. Now you mentioned this. This plan included both the county, the entire county, incorporated, and the cities.
yes.
Okay. And how were the city plans incorporated into this plan?
We are required to coordinate and incorporate a city's plan into our own for what is called internal consistency. We are required that the county plan and the city's plan be internally consistent. Therefore, we engage in an extensive coordination and and consultation with the cities, so to make sure that both our plans are consistent internally.
Okay. And you also mentioned you included schools. Did you also think about like hospitals, any other elements, major elements in part of the plan?
Yes, anytime you're planning for a 20-year plan and how your community wants to grow, you include or you make provisions for essential public infrastructures. Okay. And we do coordinate. When I mentioned service providers, that included the schools in terms of capital facilities planning. The schools are included in that they also looked at their own individual school district and determine based on our own information and their own data, what are they anticipating in terms of student growth, number of housing within their district. So they use that accordingly to plan for more school sites, if you will. And in addition, when we talk about jobs, we plan for land for jobs, including commercial and industrial. And within that, we do allow hospitals. So we do make provisions for siting of essential public infrastructures or public facilities.
And I know part like the Discovery Corridor, business area, so
yes.
You want to make sure.
All those areas, yes.
Okay. Now, is there an appeal process for this update?
Yes. When the county adopts a 20-year growth plan or update, the county is required to issue what is called a notice of adoption. That notice of adoption runs for 60 days. 60 days, okay. Yes, and within that 60-day time frame, individual property owners or anyone with standing can appeal. We currently have an appeal from a group out of Seattle called FutureWise and Friends of Clark County. They have appealed the plan, but the 60-day runs until approximately August 29. I don't want to be precise, but because the notice of adoption was issued June 29th. So if you estimate 60 days from June 29th, I'm just saying approximately August 29th. So we still have that time frame to run, but we currently have an appeal from FutureWise and Friends of Clark County. And who hears those appeals? It is initially it is heard by the Growth Management Hearings Board. Okay. Okay. So, plan's been approved. What additional steps need to take to fully implement the plan?
Really, the only additional step that we haven't done is you have to do traffic impact fees and you have to do school impact fees. When you build a new house, you pay for that portion of the school. The only part is that we wanted to step our park impact fees so they wouldn't come on all at once. So what the council is going to do is have probably a couple work sessions to rethink some of it. Right now we have acres per so many thousand residents. Is that the best metric to really have to gauge that we have enough parks per subdivision or your house? So we'll look at that, and then that's really our last piece of that. So just parks and impact fees. Right. Right. The other two impact fees, if I may add, traffic and schools, will go into effect January 1, 2017. Okay. Okay. Is there anything else? Final thoughts about this, the plan that is adopted? Any comments? It was a very good plan. It's a very legal plan, but it's not always the end of it. I think eventually we're going to start looking at probably rural owners to see where they're at. But then, one of the things is when you looked at the 2004 plan, when they didn't do too much to it, and then everybody started moving in, and then we had to redo our plan in 2007. It might happen this time because, as you know, our population is really starting to pick up now. So what you can't be is really be behind the curve, because then your land prices go up and you can't keep track of them. So we may be looking at the plan earlier than before if the population rises to a certain extent. So I think people need to really keep track of that.
So it's not a plan you just put on the shelf and forget about it.
No, it isn't, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will also add that this board will continue its policy to recognize existing but legal undersized parcels, while the board or the council will continue to look at what other options are there for the rural folks. It is important to recognize that the board will continue their policy to recognize legal but undersized parcels. So property owners who have undersized parcels that are legally created can still, if there are no homes on it, can still obtain a building permit on that. These issues, as you know, are very complex, and we have a good board. Hopefully, they will continue the dialogue on what to do as we engage in another update, maybe before then, because as Councilor indicated, we are happy to see that the nation and the Clark County is recovering from the recession, and our population is beginning to pick up. There are certain interests out there to do things differently. You hear about building smaller footprint in terms of housing, and affordable housing issue is still out there. So there are many complex issues that this board will begin to tackle in the future as we move forward. I'm really excited to be working with the current board and look forward to work with the new board.
Great. So if people want to learn more about the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan, where can they check?
They can call us at 397-2280, and I think dial our extension. I don't have, my extension is 4112. They can also go to our website, www.clark.wa.gov/com.
Community planning.
Community planning.
We're showing that on screen.
Yes, community planning.
Okay, well, thank you both for coming here, and good luck with the plan.
Oh,
Thank you very much.